Hey everybody, I am Keish,
Keyshawn is here too.
and you are listening to the very first episode of For Kills and Thrills, a true crime podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so we're really excited about our first episode, so we do want to just jump into it. And I want to let you all know that there is a warning, a listener discretion. There are mentions of child pornography, sexual assault of children, murder, and torture of children. So if this is not your cup of tea in true crime, you may not want to listen to everything. All right. So our first episode is about the murder of Angela or Angie Marie Housman. Our sources are www.findagrave.com, ksdk.com, themidwestcrimefiles.com, newspapers.com, and reddit.com. And getting into it, Angela or Angie Housman was born February 18th, 1984, to her mother Diane Housman and Angelo DeAndreas in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, so they was in St. Louis.
Yep, not too far. However, sources say that Angelo had a very estranged relationship with his daughter, and he only met her a few times. But I did want to mention that it was reported that he did want to be a part of her life. It just, I guess, was not allowed. I don't have too much information on that. But he was financially supportive, child support and birthdays and things of that nature. So he did what he could. But she was actually raised by her mother, Diane, and since 10 months old, her stepfather, Ron Bone. And according to my research, Angie was a very happy, loving child with an infectious smile, and growing up she was just very friendly with everybody. And by 1993, Angie with her parents and baby brother, by then of course, Ron Bone Jr. had moved to St. Anne, Missouri. And Angie was a fourth grader at Booter Elementary at the time in St. Anne. She was said to have loved school and was always so proud of her little projects that she'd bring home. Angie loved to play at parks with friends, with her Barbies, or anything pink, and wanted to someday be a nurse. So she was a sweet little girl. I used to want to be, well, I still probably do want to be a nurse, but I don't know. I'll be what I am right now. Right. It says that she would get off the bus at the intersection of Wright Avenue and St. Gregory Lane and walk home with kids from school as the neighbors sat outside and watched everyone get home. Angie would get off the bus at the intersection of Wright Avenue and St. Gregory Lane and walk home with kids from school as neighbors sat outside and watched everyone get home. This was the norm for her, and she would also sometimes spend a little extra time chatting on the way. And
she was outgoing and stuff.
Yeah, she was really outgoing apparently. So she would chit chat before going to her duplex, which was literally just 8 houses down from the bus stop. However, I looked at the intersection. If you look on the Instagram,
Google Maps. Oh, Instagram.
I posted it.
Oh, for real?
I posted it on the page. So if you look at that intersection, it's a suburban area. So 8 houses down could seem a little bit further than 8 houses down on our block.
For Kills and Thrills _podcast right now.
On Instagram.
Yep,
we're working on YouTube pages, TikTok pages, Facebook discussion groups and everything. But we'll get to that later. That's not the point. All right. So she would chit chat before going to her duplex from the bus stop. And this was like an everyday routine. However, that wasn't the case on November 18th, 1993, when coincidentally the neighbors were not outside. Like, there were no neighbors out to watch the kids that day. There were probably a couple couples that sat outside normally, but that day
that's actually kind of weird.
It's kind of weird, but sometimes people have things to do. November 8th is before the holiday, you know.
They picked the wrong day.
Yeah, unfortunately. So that afternoon, Angie got off the bus around 4 p.m. with the other children. And they all walked home in that group. But apparently, Angie made it past the fourth house and then seemed to have vanished.
Fourth house?
The fourth house.
And she was working with her friend?
She was with a group of people. But they were a group of kids. And, I mean, if she's known to walk off, it's probably not something that they worried about mostly. But by 5 o'clock, her stepdad, Ron, noticed Diane and Ron Jr. asleep on the couch. But he could not, he didn't see any sign of Angie's backpack or her shoes. She always left them by the door. So then he got a little concerned because it was pretty late after she should have been home, which is normally 4 o'clock, and then an hour later she's not home. So they started to search the neighborhood, and others also joined. So the other neighbors around the community, they joined. The ones that weren't outside. The ones that were there.
Okay.
It was noted that the children didn't even recall any commotion or notice her leaving the group. They just mentioned her being there 1 minute and then gone the next. So the search lasted until about 7 p.m. that night, when they finally flagged down the police to report Angie missing. And so when the investigation began, the police, they were like quickly alarmed due to a similar kidnapping just 10 days earlier. So apparently there was something going on. Kids were going missing. So they were quickly like, okay, we have to get on top of this and figure out what was going on. 10 days earlier, an 11-year-old girl, she was ambushed after getting off the bus.
This is that girl? This is talking about?
Angie. This isn't Angie. This is a different girl. Because this is why the police were alarmed. They said
the girl from 10 days earlier.
Yeah, right. 10 days earlier, an 11-year-old girl was ambushed. After getting off the bus, she was dragged to the bushes and sexually assaulted. But she was able to break free once the man attempted to walk her to his vehicle. So she was able to break free and she ran away screaming. Yeah. So she reported him as being a white male driving a white car. She didn't really describe it being a sedan or a van or anything. She just said a white car.
Right.
So he was still on the loose at that point. And the police, they didn't even rule out anybody, including her parents. So Diane and Ron, so they were being questioned, and Ron, for the most part, was very cooperative. He never, they questioned him, but then after that, they didn't really suspect him for anything. He had taken a polygraph. He did not hesitate to take one, to take a polygraph or a lie detector test. And he had just said he had seen her that morning before going off to work. He usually expects to see her when he comes home, and he just didn't. And then by November 21st, which was a few days after, she still had not been found. So by then, the FBI had joined the investigation. And then on the 22nd, for the second time in history, the St. Louis Major Case Squad joined in on the... Yeah, at that time. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's way more now.
Right.
Yeah. And so while this search went on, they received hundreds of tips from all over the area. It was an attempted abduction nearby, which is the one that I mentioned. That's why they were, they were on alert. But of course, she was able to escape. And they were given a description of a suspicious male in the area that had been driving a blue car. So that's what the neighborhood had been saying, regarding Angie's disappearance. A police sketch was produced, but the clues, they didn't really lead to a suspect or to Angie. And even psychics began to produce their own theories. And one even claimed to dream about the police finding Angie's body in the August Bush wildlife area. And that's in St. Charles. So it's not too far from St. Anne.
Too far, but it's
not too far from St. Anne. Not that far at all.
Okay.
No. So finally, after 9 days, at the August Bush wildlife area near where the psychics described, a deer hunter reported a discovery of human remains. So yeah, at 11:15 that morning on November 27th, it was determined to be the body of Angie Housman, covered in ice chips and tied to a tree. Now, mind you, this is November.
Right, November.
A Midwest cold, right? Winter. Yeah, so this area was just 20 miles from Angie's home in St. Anne. 20 miles is not enough. It's a good 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So the reports show that Angie was probably brought to this tree no more than 24 hours before her death. So she was bound and gagged with her own underwear fabric and had duct tape around her entire face.
Where'd they find her at?
They found her in the woods. It's called Bush Wildlife Area.
Right, where the psychic had.
Yeah, the psychic. The psychic described it. So, of course, they didn't listen to the psychic, but, it's definitely what the psychic said. It says that duct tape was around her entire face except her nose. Her hands were handcuffed behind her back, and then she was tied to a tree. So he got rope, tied the handcuffs to the tree.
He tied her to a tree?
Yeah, he tied the handcuffs to the tree. So, of course, you can't tie her arms around. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. And she was naked. So, what they found at the scene, this was the start of the investigation. So what they found at the scene, which was it was like a dead end. So not many people went there, during the day.
Right.
It was used as a lover's lane. It was like a teen hangout spot, a nighttime hangout spot. Her clothing was there, her backpack, and then there was a Dollar General bag with the other ripped pieces of her underwear. They did find a fingerprint on the duct tape, but because, well, first of all, it was a partial fingerprint. And apparently not all fingers are fingerprinted when you're processed. Yeah, that's not something that I've ever heard of.
Back then, something?
I'm not sure.
That don't even make sense.
I've never been locked up. So.
They don't. Right. They don't fingerprint everything.
Yeah, so it's you just fingerprint the first three. Yeah, it's just weird. So the fingerprint that they found on the duct tape was a partial fingerprint that is not normally taken during docking. So even if the killer was somebody that had been in the system, they wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know. Right, and then back then they was the technology wasn't in it.
Yeah, DNA was just not. It was not really.
Right.
Yeah. That DNA testing, it came a very long way. But also recovered from her body, there were dog hairs and carpet fibers from a likely older model car. So at that moment, that's all they had at the crime scene.
It was an old car and
so they just believe the killer was a family friend or somebody that Angie knew, possibly because of the lack of commotion when the kids just we saw her and then we didn't.
We didn't have nothing to worry about.
And because she was a talker, she even told her teacher, this was reported after, she even told her teacher that she was going out of the country with her uncle just prior to her death. disappearance.
So
Literally.
the police did that?
Well, I guess during the investigation they talked to everybody.
Right.
And the teacher had said that Angie said that
her uncle.
Yeah, and she said that Angie had told her that she was going out of the country with her uncle.
Mm.
But, once they did that investigation, they determined that she didn't have any relatives outside the country.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So that's another reason that made them think like it was somebody that they knew. Maybe somebody that was kind of like, it's a secret.
That was her uncle.
I'm your uncle, but,
Right. That's weird.
Yeah. It's really weird, but little kids are gullible, and it's just, I don't like it. So an autopsy revealed that Angie had been held for multiple days. She was beaten, she was tortured and sexually abused, and she was deprived of water most of, if not the entire time. Mind you, Angie was missing for 9 days.
Jeez.
Yeah. And her hair had been cut and colored.
So she was away. When did she get hung up on the tree? How long was she on the tree for?
She was literally on the tree for less than 24 hours.
Oh.
At the most 24 hours.
What was they doing the other 8 days? Like, what was going on there?
He was raping her, beating her, and torturing her.
Sucks.
Yeah. So they found deep lacerations on her thigh and both her wrists.
So yeah,
she was tied up where the handcuffs were probably really hard or really hurtful. But the actual cause of death was hypothermia. So it was said that she only died more than 3 hours, no more than 3 hours before being found.
Hypothermia?
Yeah, she died from hypothermia.
Like what's happened?
Frozen to death.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was cold.
It was cold.
But after all that, she only died to she died to the cold.
That is it.
Right. She was a G though. She was not letting that dude kill her.
Little Angie. She was a strong little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So the order of events during the investigation are as follows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you this entire investigation process from like start to when there was a halt.
Right.
Okay. So on December 1st, 4 days after her body was discovered, there was a 10-year-old. Her name was Cassidy Center. She disappeared while walking to her friend's house on Spring Forest Lane. Now, right now, they're just, all of these girls are being abducted and found dead. So
this is after that.
It's right after. So everybody's assuming, okay, so this is
right.
It's all connected.
Right.
There's a serial rapist, you know?
Right.
So she disappeared while walking to her friend's house on Spring Forest Lane. Apparently that's not too far. She was reported missing after her yellow personal safety alarm was found screeching in the grass of a neighbor's yard.
Like the life alert thing.
That's what it's sounding
like. That's weird.
Yeah.
But hold on. So what happened? Okay, go on.
I'll read it. She was reported missing after her yellow personal safety alarm was found. And neighbors reported seeing a suspicious white van around the time of her disappearance.
Is it like, 3 different cars?
I've heard about the white car, but like I said, they didn't specify if it was a van or a car.
Oh, it was just a car.
She just said white car, and then she was a little girl.
Right, she was a little girl.
Right. Necessarily. And then on December 9th, 2 teenagers found her body rolled up in 2 bedspreads and a pink curtain in an alley in St. Louis City. So she was killed and brought over to the city.
Nah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that murder, it kind of rubbed everybody the wrong way because now Angie was found dead. Then you have Cassidy found dead, and so everybody's going crazy.
They gotta pay attention.
Everybody's worried, So you have the FBI, the state, and the local authorities. They formed a 100-man task force to investigate the possibility that there is a serial child predator. And it just everything was just in a frenzy. So there was There were 200 suspects at first
Mm-hmm.
in Angie's death,
Mm-hmm.
but then it escalated to over 1,000.
What were they looking for?
They were researching the pedophiles in the
Mm-hmm.
area. So it went to 1,000 once they searched all the pedophiles in the area.
They searched every single pedophile, like what? Pedophile tracker or something?
Pretty much so. I'm not sure if they had to, no. At this moment,
Mm-hmm.
they just knew about it. It might have been in like the police database.
Okay.
But at that point in time,
right,
we couldn't.
Okay.
We couldn't search it.
Right. Right. What was it? 1990 something?
This was 1993.
1993.
Yeah. So 1,000 suspects,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got all these leagues. Like this force, they were so overwhelmed with all of the quote unquote leads for this case. At its peak, they was receiving like 5,000 phone tips a day from citizens. Yeah.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. They reported any man who owned a white car or remotely resembled the sketch of the attacker in Maryland Heights. So,
Well, that's in St. Louis, right?
Yeah. Maryland Heights is another St. Louis county.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
So 2 days after Cassidy's body was found, FBI released the same psychological profile for both girls' killers. They predicted that their murderers were between the age of 20 and 45, recently living alone, owned more than one vehicle, and didn't get along with women, may have experienced stressors in life, loss of a loved one, loss of a job, something like that. And then on December 17th, 35-year-old Texas businessman Gary Stubblebean was charged with sexual assault and attempted kidnapping in connection with the November 8 attack in Maryland Heights. So that
was the first girl. Right.
The one that was...
She got away?
The one that got away.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He had been taken... He, at the time, was visiting his mom in St. Louis around that time, and he confessed after detectives linked him to a white rental car spotted at the crime scene. He also admitted to molesting 3 other children in St. Louis and North Carolina, and 3 more women came forward to accuse him of assaulting them as well. Mm-hmm. But he was eliminated as a suspect in Angie's case because after work and travel records, they placed him in Texas on those days.
Travel records, like what? How did they figure that one out?
If you're a truck driver, your company can track where you are. Oh. If you are a salesman or account management,
they placed him in Texas though. Like what? How did they
you can be clocked in at work. He was placed in Texas because he is a Texas resident.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Okay. He was traveling to the city to visit a relative.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So they had that case, which, they got him. But there were several other reported attempted abductions in the area.
So he admitted to her though, right? And that's it.
He admitted to her and other people, like in other states.
Oh, yeah. So he admitted to.
He was eliminated from Angie's case.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so, besides that one, they were sidetracked by other abductions in the area. Mm-hmm. Which were, like I said, they were all treated as if they were connected to those 2 cases. One incident involving a white man in a white car turned out to be a false alarm. Another case involving a 12-year-old girl and a black car in Illinois led nowhere. And then there was 2 separate abduction attempts involving an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, but they turned out to be hoaxes. So people were playing too much by this time. So they were kind of like messing up the investigation. It sounds like somebody in St. Louis would do.
It sounds like something St. Louis people, yeah. Sounds about right.
So at that time, it was just like becoming really expensive. and really time consuming. But on February 3rd, 1994, 27-year-old Thomas Brooks was arrested for murdering Cassidy Center.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the murder that was after Angie was found.
Mm-hmm.
So his sister and her roommate, who were living in the home where Cassie was going, remember she was on her way to visit her friend.
Right.
Yeah.
She was got off the bus, right?
Well, yeah. No. That was the girl that got away. Cassidy Center was going to meet her friend, to her friend's house. Right. Yeah, so Thomas Brooks was there. They went to their house. And his sister and roommate was there also. They were charged with hindering the investigation. So he told the detectives that he abducted the girl with the intent to just rape her. Mm-hmm. But she fought back so much that he had to beat her to death. Mm-hmm. That was crazy. That was a crazy read. But after questioning him and comparing hair samples, detectives determined that he had nothing to do with Angie's murder. So he was eliminated. They were back at square one. They don't have anybody for Angie's murder at this moment. Mm-hmm. On February 8th, detectives announced that they were looking for a middle-aged white man who was seen in Angie's neighborhood by at least 5 people. On November 16th and November 18th and February 4th. Mm-hmm. So he was seen there multiple times. In the area, he was seen by 3 separate people on the day she disappeared. So he is described as a heavy-set man between the ages of 38 and 45 with deep-set eyes and wavy brown hair.
He was just strolling down the neighborhood.
Huh?
He's just strolling down the neighborhood.
Yeah. They just said that they seen him in the area. And at one point they did mention him being seen with another man who appeared to be in his late 20s. He was a tall, slim man with reddish or light brown hair. And they have been driving a faded blue older model sedan. So remember the carpet fibers were to an older model car. And then in May 1994, law enforcement asked for help in locating a second suspicious car, which was described as a gray older model station wagon with rust on the hood and the passenger side door and streaks of rust on the side. But prior to, in March, 23-year-old John Wayne Parsons was arrested after he tried to get explicit photos of children developed at a store in Manatee, Florida. Mm-hmm. And on March 17th, he was charged with molesting 2 children. One of them, a 9-year-old girl in St. Louis, where he previously worked as a freelance roofer. When the detective searched his home, they found a stash of child porn along with the color photo of Angie and newspaper clippings about the murder. One of Angie's neighbors thought they saw someone resembling him working on the roof near her home the day of her disappearance, but detectives, they were never able to place him in Missouri on that day, so he was released as a suspect.
So why does he have a picture of Angie though?
I don't know.
Color picture of Angie. That's detailed. That's weird.
I don't know. Maybe.
Weird.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So there were multiple other suspects in the murder. There was a father-son duo who were both busted for their part in a child pornography ring.
Father-son duo?
Father-son duo.
Yeah,
that's sick. Mm-hmm. The accomplice of a child killer who reportedly confessed on his deathbed. There was a man who claimed responsibility for 12 deaths, which was kind of proven to all be lies. He just kind of start talking about stuff that he didn't do. And although it sounded a little detailed, it was stuff that had been mentioned in reports. So he was just talking. So despite this being one of the largest and costliest investigations in St. Louis history, years later, years, Angie's case still went unsolved.
Jeez.
Yep. But after 22 years, Diane, she never really gave up.
Mm-hmm.
She never
That's the
gave
mom,
up.
right?
Yeah, that's mom.
Mm-hmm.
She never gave up looking for Angie's killer.
Right.
However, she found out in 2015 that she had cancer. So but she still continued to fight to bring her daughter to justice.
Right.
Up until she passed away in 2016. So November 11th, 2016, Diane Bone, Angie's mother, passed away from cancer.
Mm.
So she left behind her husband, Ron. At that time, she definitely had more kids. She had Ron Jr., Richie Earl Bone, and Rebel Lee Bone.
Mm-hmm.
So she left also her sister, Peggy Hill, and her brother, Richard Housman. So unfortunately, she was never able to, see her daughter.
Killer justified.
Yeah, she never got to see it. But in 2018, police in St. Charles County, they decided to reevaluate Angie's case.
You said when?
In 2018. Mm-hmm. In 2019, DNA testing was performed on the evidence from the crime.
Mm-hmm. They duct tape?
Yep.
Oh, that's
from like all of the evidence that they had. They were able to,
They figured something out.
Yeah, because of DNA testing and how it had advanced over the years. This is 25 years later, finally in 2019.
It's like there's no one's ever going to get away with something like that nowadays. It's not going to happen.
It's not. DNA testing they tested the DNA on Angie's underwear, and it was analyzed using the new advanced technology, and it produced a profile of a male suspect. When the DNA matched a man in federal custody, the detectives were shocked. They were shocked. So after 25 years, police knew who killed Angie Housman. So on March 1st, 2019, police identified Angie's killer. Now let's talk about him. His name was Earl Cox. He was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. And graduated from Jennings High School in 1975.
Of course he went to Jennings High School.
Of course he went to Jennings High School.
Of course.
I don't know. It's actually a shocker. If you see a picture of him and where Jennings High School.
What's his name?
Earl Cox. Earl Webster Cox, to be exact. So after high school, he enrolled in the United States Air Force, where he worked as a computer operator and was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany.
Oh, he looks like a heavy-set white dude with brown hair.
He looks exactly how he was described.
Oh, so they see him like that was that.
I do believe it.
Okay.
I do believe it.
Yeah,
because
he looks like a heavy-set man with
they're
brown
gonna
hair.
if you see the sketch drawing next to his picture, you can see it. Yeah, I'm also gonna post that to Instagram.
The For Kills and Thrills _
For
podcast.
Kills and Thrills _ podcast. Yep. So he worked as a computer operator and was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany. In 1982, Earl Cox was court-martialed for sexually abusing 4 girls under the age of 11 while stationed in Germany. He was dishonorably discharged and sentenced to 8 years at Fort Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. So, from 1982 to 1985, when he got out for parole, he was in Kansas and then returned to the St. Louis area.
Right, he didn't get caught, so he was out chilling.
Yeah, so he was just out. In 1989, Earl Cox was arrested in Overland after taking 2 7-year-old girls to the movies and a park, which coincidentally is right behind Angie's school. So, yep, that's
heavy set dude with brown hair, like
brown wavy hair.
That gotta be him.
Yeah,
bro's a weirdo.
Despite the sexual assault allegations, those charges were dropped due to lack of evidence in 1991.
Right.
However, his arrest was enough to revoke his parole, and he was locked back up. So he went back to finish out the rest of his sentence in Kansas.
Wait. So he didn't get arrested again for ANGIE?
So for the Germany thing, he was sentenced to, what was it, 8 years? Yeah.
Right, for the.
But that was only 3 years.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So then in 89, 4 years later,
he got out.
He got in trouble again and had to go back to court. So that case was dropped in 91.
So that's the reason why he was
he had to go back.
Okay.
He had to go back to finish that case because he, they had to revoke his parole.
Whatever. Yeah.
So he went back to Kansas. When he was released again from Leavenworth in 1992, he went back to St. Louis again.
Right.
Because after the murder, he had resided in Ferguson until 1995. And then eventually moved to Colorado, where he started a child pornography ring that reached internationally. Remember, he was like a computer guy in Germany. So
he know how to get.
He was the head man in charge.
He's a weirdo.
He's disgusting.
He's a weirdo.
He's disgusting. A child pornography ring, and you're gonna hear weirdo is not even.
Right.
Yeah. Weirdo isn't even bad.
Right, that's not.
Weirdo is not the word for him.
Yeah, you're a weirdo. You know why you're a weirdo?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Because I like this
stuff. Because you like this stuff. That's why you're a weirdo.
Oh, well. All right. That reached internationally. Users were given access to child sexual abuse material on a reward system in which the more abuse material they shared, the more they would have access. So in 2002, an FBI agent posing as a 14-year-old girl made contact with Earl Cox, and he sent her money for a train ticket to Colorado. I'm not going to say what he said because, you're still my child, but I'll abbreviate it, I guess. He told her that he wanted to F her and spank her and use her as a sex slave.
Said that to Angie?
No, he didn't say it to Angie. This is way later. This is 2002.
I'm still looking at the picture of dude.
Yeah, we are talking about him and how he moved on with his life after Angie. What he was doing.
This is after, okay.
What he was doing.
Right, well, they could not find him for what, 18?
A million years.
Yeah,
25 years.
It was a lot of years.
Yeah, it was so many years. An FBI agent posing. So he told her that he wanted to F her and spank her and use her as a sex slave. And he was arrested at the restaurant that he told the girl to meet him at.
Okay.
Yep. So upon arresting Cox, the FBI found over 45,000 sexual abuse images of children. They found a bunch of digital evidence implicating him as the ringleader of this group. And this group was even planning a teddy bear picnic. I'm not sure what a teddy bear picnic is.
Sounds like something weirdos.
I'm definitely going to look it up.
Right.
I'm definitely going to look it up. For members, it was to be at a farm in Missouri.
Okay.
So he was tried in a federal court and sentenced to 10 years in prison in 2003.
Yeah.
Yep. So he was in jail all that time. And over 60 men internationally was arrested for their participation in the sexual abuse.
Wait, so this is why he was in jail?
Yeah, that's why he was in jail.
He got sentenced in 2003.
He got sentenced in 2003 for his child porn ring that he was running
so why was he in jail
in Colorado. Let me read it.
Right.
All right. So along with him, over 60 men were arrested. In October of 2012, he was set to be released. But the judge determined that Earl was a sexually dangerous person and civilly committed him under the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act of 2006.
Sounds like a W Act.
It is a W Act.
Yeah.
I'll definitely tell you about that.
What?
That act and that case.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one. This was a good law. Whatever. So he remained under civil commitment until 2019, when the DNA evidence was linked him to the rape of Angie Housman.
Mm-hmm.
So, St. Charles County prosecutor Tim Lomar initially planned to seek the death penalty for her rape and murder. However, if Earl Cox confessed to the crime and told the court what he did, they would take the death penalty off the table.
Like, why would, like, no, that's, it makes sense.
What,
that doesn't make sense. Yeah, no, that's,
yeah.
Well, he needs to, I don't know.
I agree, but sometimes you get a plea if you get, like, the actual full details. Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
So, what Earl said was, on that day, he was driving to his sister's house, which happened to be near Angie's house.
Right.
Near her bus stop.
Bus stop.
His car was acting up, so he stopped and took a look around. He said that he saw the school bus and watched as Angie Housman exited the bus. And when Angie walked past, he asked the little girl if she was hungry, and she said she was cold and hungry and agreed to get in his truck. So, he took her to Burger King, bought her food, and then he drove around with her for a while and then took her back to his house. And during that time, he said that he held her, and it matched with evidence showing that he violently sexually assaulted her, beat her, starved her, and deprived her of fluids.
Mm-hmm.
And after holding her for 8 days, he said he took her to the wildlife area, tied her naked body to the tree, and then he left her to die in the freezing cold. Like, he literally.
Right. At least he didn't kill her. She was a G.
He didn't. Really yeah. He definitely didn't care. He didn't show her any mercy.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, in August of 2020, Earl was sentenced to life. Wait, this is a little bit backwards. So, in March of 2021, he pleaded guilty to sodomy. In August of 2020, Earl Cox was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for his crimes. So Angie finally got justice.
Right.
And now she can rest in peace. But I still feel so bad for her mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But while he was in there, he pleaded guilty to sodomy of another young girl and received additional time. Not sure if you know what sodomy means. It just means a sexual act in an unsexual place.
I understand now.
Yeah.
I understand.
Mm-hmm. So, of another young girl and received additional time. So he will die.
He's not getting out.
He's not getting out. I honestly think that he probably wasn't gonna get out regardless. There was gonna be something else to hold him, some other act. Like,
probably super old.
He was just not.
Yeah.
He was not. But it was said that her birth father was at Angie's funeral in '93. He didn't, however, go to this court date as the only living parent, and just because it's hard, it's hard that he didn't get to know his baby, and it's hard that the last time he got to see her,
he didn't get to her.
He didn't. He only saw her a few times, and one of those times was in a casket.
Right.
Yeah, so that was really hard.
Like, why
so
didn't
there's
they get to see her?
The family. I don't know the situation behind their relationship, but he was not allowed to really be a big part of her life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, throughout her years, though, since the 1993 death, many laws have been passed to protect the safety of children in our nation.
Mm-hmm.
The sex offender registry.
Right.
So now we could check that wherever we are.
Anybody can check.
We can check it.
I can Google
I
that
probably
right
we need to check it for our neighborhood.
I'm not. I really kills like they end up on this podcast. I swear they would.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think that stuff is important to know.
Right.
Civil commitment of sexual abusers and the Amber Alert system.
Amber Alert. Right.
Yeah, that one. But yeah, so what do you think about our first case?
I mean, like that was just crazy, and then it really makes sense why you're so like protective when like you get off the bus.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you got to think about it. This happened in 1993,
right,
so
like,
I was
3 years younger than her. Right?
Yeah, I was. What was she? 84.
84.
I was 3 years younger than her.
Right. I forgot 84, 85. It was one of them, right?
Yeah, she was born February 18th, 1984. Right. So yeah, 3 years. So if she was 9, I was 6.
So what Granny knew about this?
Granny knew about it. So when all of this stuff was going on, imagine what Granny was thinking. Yeah. Imagine the panic that she was in. So growing up, even for me, just think about how many times I heard this story.
I mean, I ain't heard about this till today.
Right. So when the news of his capture, or like when they found out it was him, that was so huge for her. Like I remember where we were, and she was so excited. You would have thought,
Granny?
Yeah.
Right.
You would have thought this happened to her, but I mean, in reality, it did. It happened to a lot of families. It was just
people about that. They knew about Angie. What's her name?
Angie Houseman.
Right.
Yeah. Ask people if they knew her. Like, It's just crazy. Yeah. So the only thing I gotta say is to Angie, may she rest in peace. She was a badass little girl.
Right.
She
really was a G though. She
did. After everything that she went through, like, she did not give him the satisfaction of killing her.
That's
like she really went out, I guess, on her own. Nature took her out, I guess.
That's a flex. You didn't kill me.
Yeah. You didn't kill her. Like, that is not something that you did. He was definitely the cause of it, unfortunately. Yeah. But I do think that her loss in St. Louis helped protect people like me. And I would like to think it helps protect people like you, because I'm a very cautious person now. I think it's important to watch your surroundings. And mostly because reading these and doing this research and the things that she mentioned to her teacher, and then just, oh yeah, I'm hungry and cold, let me get into your car, stranger.
Right, yeah.
It just makes it seem like he wasn't just so happened to be at your sister's house and just so happened to see the bus.
That big set dude with the wavy brown hair.
Yeah, and they've seen you multiple days.
They seen him. That was probably not the first time.
You probably went over there to say, hey sister, I'm around. You know,
right? And
I think he was possibly watching Angie.
His car broke down.
Yeah, I think he was probably waiting for an opportunity.
None of the neighbors were outside.
And none of the neighbors were outside, so he took his opportunity. Right. Yeah. So may Angie rest in peace, and may Earl Cox go to hell, right where he belongs. And may you guys love this epeisode, because this one is a wrap, and I'm very excited. Yeah. It was good. It was so much fun.
Right.
All right, but it's getting late, so
sleep.
Yeah, it's time to wrap this one up. And until next time, I hope you love it. Bye.
I can't go to sleep.